think we will correct the statement from Fadima. This is not WikiLeaks. This is propaganda and misinformation at its best. You know, I am reminded of the music of Lord Lara in the 70s, the Jamaican artist who argued that foreigners were always quick to pick on the islanders and blow things out of proportion and always fail for tell the good stories about the island. I think that was an internationally acclaimed song, the foreign press. Those of us, we will be the camouflage, we cherish the lyrics, the reggae vibes, and the social commentary of that song, and we embraced it, some of us who were radical progressives. You see, this bar fellow in the Africanist have not done Sierra Leone any good, have not done himself good. It's really a very simple propaganda and misinformation for defense. I recall the Auditor General in report for 2019-2020 was out. Everybody thought this was the gospel audit of the country. Tabloid individual clown, in my opinion, is. Again, it's just my opinion. Because anyone who would put the interest, who would succumb or subvert the interest of the state for his own personal fame, for me, is a clown. So that, with all due respect, that is the perspective in which I call him a clown. Because number two, of an individual who, in my opinion, is a reject, political reject. Are we going to look at him as the authority in the audit of the country, or shall we rely on the Auditor General and the Accountant General? That is my opening, and I'll let you guys respond to that.
Would me take exception for refer to as Mr. Chernobyl as a reject or a propagandist? Mr. Chernobyl now one of the most patriotic and strict and effective journalists in Salon history. But couldn't they get a kind name there, but them few. And also because I've been there at the receiving end of Mr. Chernobyl when mighty All People's Congress within a power. Mr. Chernobyl published boku article and critical of within the former government of His Excellency President Anis Baikoma Bindedu. I mean, specifically, he writes one book on Ebola corruption. The good thing, though, the difference between we and the APC and the SLPP, we try for engage Mr. Chernobyl. We try for send documents into him, and we try for clarify certain things. So, you know, escalate now, where a senior member of the ruling party, they publicly insult a respected man with people in respect across the political divide. Like we get swear, I mean, including here, we see somebody, they get a terrible record. Because now we tribesmen, because now the same region we come out, we take the responsibility of a nation and put an head. Case in point, the current President Julius Maada Bio, President of Sierra Leone, former, may so rest in peace, President Ahmed Tijan Kaba. After we Tijan Kaba came to power in 1996, where they audit the country money, that the Maada Bio don't serve 3 months. 3 months. But Kaba say, His Excellency now, Maada Bio, before he left power, reluctantly, he emptied with national treasury. I'm not surprised. He left, he goes to say, go Ghana, so he come back Australia and America, yeah, that money don't batter. The same man, waited for over 2 decades. You have people like Emmanuel Aliyu and other SLPP supporters who thought he is the best for our country. And this man, Mama, a can't tell her, just pull them, shoot people. This was real. I was in Freetown. I saw it. They were doing it until Maada Bio bulldozed away to become the SLPP flag bearer. We are not surprised. We should not be surprised. We should accept our stupidity. I mean it respectfully, not to data, but it is so annoying. For let me see someone like Marabiu, when Ian Party, Tijan Kaba, say if he empty the national treasury, he go into bogus contract in 1996 and beyond. In brother Steve Bio, he order fake rotten gunboat machine. He charge the country boku money. What he not pay? The evidence there. Lawyer Charles Francis Magai don't talk. Fasaidu Mangua don't talk. In fact, Fasaidu was relentless in his messages about this man. This man we Sierra Leoneans take and make president. So I'm not surprised. We should not be surprised. His wife introduced this woman to be Sierra Leoneans, please. This is serious matters. This same man, President Julius Maada Bio, introduced a woman to we when in 2018 he said, "I wife they married." Few months later, let's have about it, but just a little over a year in government. They say they're not married, now they become married. 1 year they live in London, they say they're married, then come, there were photos of evidence of a traditional marriage, which is a marriage. Right? I'm coming, I'm landing. Tina Bio, the current first lady, we now know the accomplice for empty national treasury. Be cook business. He get police case in Gambia. He take one with man money, he take that with anger and frustration. He treat you as a record. So we are not surprised. So when Jan Kaba was in office, he continued to work as an schoolmaster work, a term of office, and he's doing so now. And this same Emmanuel Aliu, including the President Julius Maada Bio, was sharing what Channel Bar was publishing against the APC over and over. He was their friend then. Now is his nemesis. I'll take a break for now and chime in as the program goes.
Okay. It's very simple. Sierra Leone needs a Chernobyl. Because we don't find that for, say, in modern day democracy, even though traditionally they don't teach we say that 3 arms of government exist, executive, parliament, or Congress, and the judiciary. For make a democracy work, we need a 4th arm, which in fact in America today, if it wasn't for that 4th arm day, Donald Trump will have flipped this country over to whatever he wanted, and at the press. So I'm a great believer in the press because I think it serves everyone's purpose. So I have made her read some of the articles that Mr. Chernobyl writes without determining the credibility or lack thereof. As a lawyer, I like when somebody cites something. Mr. Chernobyl, they say the laws of Sierra Leone, according to the laws of Sierra Leone, the financial regulations, a non-state institution is not authorized to receive public funding. He may be right, he may not be right, but at least it cites a basis to raise certain issues. People like Ibrahim Taki, and even in those days, you know, people like Sam Mesga, you had people who were astute and journalists who took opposing sides, but give people something to think about. So those were my heroes in those days. So Sierra Leone, regardless of how we might feel, we need a Chernobyl. I know they talk about a propagandist, talk about somebody who really is saying it like it is. Now, First Lady's issue. I personally believe that the First Lady should have a budget because she is the public relation ambassador of the country to some extent. I am amazed that there is no budget set aside for, or if there is, I'm not aware of it, but I'm amazed that the first lady not go get the budget for make it do as he want, whatever he want. The amount at issue here is not, to me, it's not a large amount. I understand Mr. Chernobyl to be saying she has not followed regulation. I understand her to be saying I have no regulation to follow. When I need money in the interest of the country, I ask the State House appropriate money for me. That doesn't seem to be her fault. It just demonstrates the irresponsible behavior of a government, you know. But I think any lady, first lady should have a staff. First lady should have a budget from which to operate. Now, but the first lady doesn't serve herself well. When Indy go toe-to-toe with a journalist, first of all, I think it's unwise. She can never win that argument. Two, when they take opposing position, such as accusing Mr. Ba of wanting a job under a husband not getting a job, then that forces Mr. Ba for defending himself and say she's lying, and you don't want to, you know, because at the end of the day, whether I would like her or not, she's our first lady. So I don't think we need to be calling her a liar, a this, a criminal. It serves no useful purpose. But so she too holds that to herself to keep the discussion at a certain level. I think the first lady will be best served to stop being our own defender and get a press secretary through whom she can speak. But if she continues trying to go out there and take issue and go toe-to-toe, I think she demeans herself by doing that, in my view.
Need a propagandist. Sierra Leone does not need somebody who would peddle lies. In fact, in all of his report, he has not indicted the First Lady. He has not indicted the government. He has not stated a single crime that anyone has committed. Not once. The entire social media that is peddling the lies have not stated a single violation of law. They have speculated. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but this is what Sierra Leone needs. Sierra Leone needs the Auditor General. Sierra Leone needs the Accountant General. Sierra Leone needs the ACC. The Sierra Leone needs the civil societies. Sierra Leone needs the parliament. I think all of these people are far more credible than this clown in the Africanist. I mean, we established these institutions in Sierra Leone as credible institutions, as independent institutions. And here we are in tabloid social media platforms giving credibility to an individual who has every reason to be angry at the system and use it to gain notoriety. I can say that's number one. Number two, here's the other problem we face as a country. This story is more of a story of misogyny. It's more of a story of a patriarchal society than anything else. Our society is not comfortable with women that are confident. Our society is uncomfortable with women that are strong, with women that have opinion, with women that can offer aspirations and dreams to young girls. Our society is not comfortable with the progressive agenda. And unfortunately, a good many of us have been taught to just toe the line and follow the propaganda of the few and be in the midst of the sensationalization of media stories. You know, in all honesty, we are speaking about these people like us are on here because it is important to educate the people of Sierra Leone as to why we must be engaged and informed citizens.
Need another get money. Why did the administration not make a bill or whatever? Can I go to parliament and say we need for change this because you saying because our men are not comfortable with women in power, because I like strong women in power. I like women in power, but I don't like people that go over Usai or cross the bounds, because if we have to do it right, we get for say. And Mr. Ba Iyontin, the talk now say the First Lady's office go over, jump the constitution and do your own thing by taking the money from the purse of the people and go support and sponsor whatever in they do to. If the constitution not put on that way, what he make it right. Wrong is wrong. If the Constitution say you cannot do this, it does not make it right, is it, Mr. Emmanuel? So go ahead.
No, the Constitution. Well, it's a fair question, but I think it's important for them to clarify them. The office of the First Lady, we all recognize it is serving the people of this country, the people of Sierra Leone. All of the functions, if you really think about the First Lady work in all districts, in all corners, in all regions of this country, you're not going to be able to put a monetary amount to what in that woman they do for that country. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of actual value transferred and exhibited in the life of the marginalized and Sierra Leoneans in general. But let me assume, say, the First Lady in office was funded by the government. And by all accounts, the First Lady in office, which is the interest and work of the people, should be funded by the government. Let me assume, say, the Constitution does not designate any special way where the First Lady in office should be funded. But we all know, say, the First Lady in office, not the people in the office. The assumption is government function in ways that those things that are not inscribed in constitutions or laws that specifically states that you could do this or do that, if there are areas where we have to make do and we have to make sure the function and the work of the people go on, I believe that the government use their own legal procedures then for find ways for fund the First Lady in office. Which evidence? I mean,
it has evidence.
Hold on, wait a minute. Just because there was an expenditure does not make evidence to what?
But it is evidence of what Mr. Ba back up in statement by evidence.
This is the problem. We keep misappropriating words that are not correct.
It is
evidence.
That's why
implies discrimination. Evidence to what?
Okay, well, hold on, sir.
Bank statements. Bank statements. Bank statements.
Okay, bank statements.
Withdrawals.
What is wrong with bank statement? It's an expenditure.
Mr. Emmanuel, if somebody can meet you, sir, and tell you, say, oh, you don't do this, you don't do that, I get paper trail, this not the text the way you been text me, or this not the thing then the money where you don't transfer to me, I can't bring them out. Don't you think you have the right to come out and defend yourself to the people of the country where don't mandate you?
You can see a pattern of overspending. For example, in one of the bank statements offered by the African Express, and by the way, African Express is not a one-person show. You have Mark Fieldman, it's an organization, it's a registered organization here in the United States. Credible registered organizations here in the United States, based on what my research. So it's not Chernobyl, African Express, Chernobyl, African Express. Most of the articles are written and published by 3 reputable journalists. So it's not just Chernobyl. That there is some form of cover-up. And then we have respectable people like Mr. Emmanuel Ali here coming in and trying to insult the whistleblower. Basically insulting Sierra Leoneans. But like I said in my opening statement, we should not be surprised.
This fellow with the Africanist, as far as I'm concerned, is a non-entity, is not relevant in terms of public discourse. Yeah, I wish he was here, but yeah. Again, I'm giving my opinion about him. I'm telling you exactly what I feel about him. Because here's the problem with this guy. If the MCC, which is an internationally recognized organization, led by the United States Congress, has accredited us for fighting corruption under President Bill in government. If the Afrobarometer, which is a continental and regional organization, have looked into corruption in Sierra Leone, have given us high scores for fighting corruption under President Bill in government. If the World Bank just released millions of dollars in grants and continues to accredit the Bill government for having fought corruption and having secured good governance, if all of these institutions, internationally reputable institutions, are accrediting our government, if the Deputy UN Secretary General can fly to Sierra Leone and meet with the First Lady and encourage her to use her voice to empower young girls in our country, if the regional organizations like ECOWAS or AU are looking at President Bill and giving him leadership positions to chair these organizations, If all of them are accrediting Sierra Leone as a country that is moving in a progressive direction, who is Chernobyl and his Africanist tabloid to tell us that we should listen to him?
The consolidated fund. I was listening just now to Mr. Ali again. He says the money spent by the First Lady was money donations to our office.
That's not what I told you. Hey, I think you should correct that. That is not what I said.
That's okay. I didn't interrupt you.
That is not
what I said. You can watch the video later.
No, but don't misrepresent me.
You can watch the video later. That was what you said, sir.
I'm not going to allow you to do that.
I did not interrupt you when you said it, but please let me learn.
You can what I did not say.
You said that.
I didn't say that.
Hold up.
Mr. Ali, if you can maintain some decorum, I think you should.
No, but it's your job as host to correct him. Correct him immediately.
No, but we can't correct him in the middle. But we cannot correct him in the middle of him talking. We have to wait and do so, because if we keep interrupting each other, that's what we said.
There's nothing to correct about. He just said it right here. If any of you have the chance to review the video, he just said.
Well, I cannot allow this to happen. This is APC tactics.
The money, but let me learn.
No,
you have no facts to pretend. You have no facts to pretend. You cannot defend the First Lady. So you want to make this a screaming match. This is why you're interrupting me. You're interrupting me because you have nothing to defend. You cannot defend the egregious corruption of the First Lady, the thieving, the spending.